Welcome to Miyconst Hardware. These days you can play Battlefield 2042 beta, and I was able to get some free time and test the Xeon E5-2640 V3. But first I have tested my own computer to understand what kind of performance we can expect from Battlefield 2042. In my computer at the moment I have Core i9-10850K and Titan V. After some testing and experimenting, I have settled down with the following configuration: 1440p screen resolution and the low graphical preset. In this configuration my FPS stays somewhere between 70 and 110. Of course the game has some occasional FPS drops and stutters. There is still a whole bunch of different graphical glitches and bugs. Basically the game is still in the beta stage and the developers have lots to do. For some reason on my main computer, when I try to increase the graphical preset to medium, I'm getting too many lags and too many stutters, so the game is very unplayable. Surprisingly, I did not get this many lags and stutters when I was testing E5-2640 V3 and RTX 3060 Ti, even if I increased the graphical settings to the maximum. Maybe it is related to the fact that I'm using Titan V, and Titan V is not designed as a gaming GPU, that's why the game was not tested and was not optimized for Titan V. Okay, so the first tested Xeon configuration would be Xeon E5-2640 V3 and the NVIDIA GTX 1066GB, 1080p screen resolution and minimal graphical preset. All in all, FPS stays somewhere between 60 and 70 with occasional drops to 50-55. In heavy scenes, especially if you have lots of stuff going on the screen or you have some heavy reflections or some explosions or similar stuff. I would say it is excellent performance for this old hardware. Both NVIDIA GTX 1060 and Xeon E5-2640 V3 are rather old by now. While gaming in this configuration, GTX 1060 is loaded up to 100% and the CPU is loaded to 44-50%. It is important to understand that E5-2640 V3 has hyper-threading, which means you have 2 threads per physical core. 50% utilization means that all 8 physical cores are doing some meaningful work, and this means that our E5-2640 V3 is almost utilized to its maximum potential. It is also worth mentioning that CPU cores are very evenly loaded, not a single CPU core is bumping 100% utilization. But during the loading time, all CPU cores are going up to 100%, thus if you have more cores or faster cores, the game will be loading slightly faster. The next tested configuration is E5-2640 V3 and NVIDIA RTX 3060 Ti, testing the same 1080p and a low preset. Even though RTX 3060 Ti is a much faster GPU than GTX 1060, FPS goes up only a little bit. With this configuration we are getting 80 to 100 FPS and the GPU load stays at about 50%. Clearly we see that E5-2640 V3 is the bottleneck. It is not able to provide enough work to RTX 3060 Ti and the graphics card is chilling out. Nevertheless, frame rate is surprisingly smooth and stable. Of course, we are still getting occasional lags and FPS drops, but these are more questions to the game optimization itself. Even if I increase the graphical quality all the way up to Ultra preset, the GPU is still not 100% loaded. The GPU load stays somewhere around 75%, up and down here and there. FPS value stays between 60 and 80. Thus, it's safe to conclude that at 1080p, even with the maximum quality preset, E5-2640 V3 is not able to provide enough work to RTX 3060 Ti. This graphics card is simply too powerful for E5-2640 V3 at 1080p. Let's increase the resolution and test 1440p low preset. In this case, FPS stays at about 70-90 FPS, which is about the same as at 1080p, and the GPU load is still under 100%, 60-90. Thus, even at 1440p, E5-2640 V3 is too slow for RTX 3060 Ti. And the final tested configuration is E5-2640 V3, RTX 3060 Ti, 1440p and ultra graphical preset. In this case, performance stays somewhere between 55 and 65 frames per second, but GPU load is still not 100% all the time. It drops to 70%, sometimes goes up, sometimes goes down. Which means that even at 1440p with the ultra graphical preset, E5-2640 V3 is still a slight bottleneck for RTX 3060 Ti. Overall though, the performance is really good. What I can say in the conclusion: a 7-year-old E5-2640 V3 is still a great performer. For its current price of about 25 euros, it is the best value gaming Xeon. Sure, if you can buy Core i5-10400F, that will be a better option, But for ultra-budget gaming computers, Xeon E5-2640 V3 is a very attractive option. Yes, it will be bottlenecking NVIDIA RTX 3060 Ti, but let's go back to Earth. Most of you who are using E5-2640 V3 for gaming will probably use graphics card something like GTX 1060 or AMD RX 580. In such configuration, GPU will be the bottleneck. In general, I would say that RTX 2060, 2060 Super, AMD RX 5600, 5700 and 6600 would be the best match for E5-2640 V3. If there will be enough interest, I will probably test some other Xeon CPUs with Battlefield 2042. I'm also thinking to test Far Cry 6 and see how this game is performing with the Xeon CPUs, but for now that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, I hope it was interesting, I hope you have enjoyed it, goodbye.